This is Chris coming to you with Better Days Rain.
What's up, Chris?
What's up, brother? I can't believe Mike relinquished control.
He did. He relinquished control, which doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't happen very often, but you know what? His family called.
I was about to say, when the wife calls, man, we come running, right?
Hey, you know what? And that's what we're all about here at the studio, is helping each other out and
Serving the wives.
You know, they've been trying to train me for this for over a year now. I just hope I don't screw it up too bad.
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, man. You're just talking to the microphone.
Oh, there's the microphone
there you
right
go.
there.
You're just talking to the microphone.
So, you know, it's kind of funny that he leaves on this particular episode.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought so too.
You know, understanding anger and addiction. You know, you and I both have a lot of anger.
I've actually toned it down. I've toned it way down. I had to put some things into my life and start living different, right? To bring me down to a calmer level, but it took a lot of practice.
Right. You know,
It took a lot of time.
You know, of course, we're also both getting older too.
I don't think age had anything to do with it, to be honest.
You don't think so?
No. No.
You know, you always hear about, you know, people going, hey, the older you get, the calmer you get. You don't think there's anything to that?
I think it just gets deeper, bro.
You think it gets
like there's some old people that I talk to, and I'm like, yeah, this dude's got some serious resentments on life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of anger in them eyes. He's just learned how to control it. You know what I mean? Or he ain't telling nobody.
He still has anger, but he might still have something in the back closet.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I got an uncle. He's kind of up there in age a little bit, and he always likes to talk about his old man muscles. You know what I mean? He's like, you just a young buck, wild and crazy. I got that old man muscle. You step into my ring, I'm gonna show you these old man muscles.
Yeah. My grandfather used to tell me that too. You know, we working on the farm, and he goes, "Man, those are nice. Those are some nice show muscles you'd be getting there at the gym.
Yeah,
you know, getting ready to go out there for Friday Night Lights. Those show muscles look good,
bro. I'll tell you, old people will always make fun of your Photoshop.
They will.
You know what I mean? Because I will. I'll zoom in. I'll blow it up. And they're like, yeah, it's a nice Photoshop there, nephew. Like, come on, man.
But you know what?
Just ride the wave, bro.
Grandpa could always get that rusty nut off that bolt before you could. You know?
Oh,
but you know, that kind of leads us into our first question here for you, man.
All right.
How did anger first show up in your life, before or during an active addiction?
Man, so anger really popped up really before my addiction started. So my mom lived in Amarillo, my dad lived in Dallas. I moved to live with my dad around second grade, and he was in a relationship with a woman who was not ready to have a child, right? And so when I got put into the mix, there was like this jealousy war that took place between me and her, because my dad was my best friend. And so we went head to head almost immediately, you know, and by, you know, 5th, 6th grade, that turned into an all-out rebellion, war inside the house. I spent a lot of time grounded. I'll just say that. Like, I was grounded a lot from my behavior. And, you know, a lot of those times I was grounded to my room. And so what it did is it created a isolation, right, from the world. I started craving going outside, things like that, being around my friends. So I would sneak out a lot. A lot of times I would not even come home from school. I would just bypass it altogether and stay out till 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, we're talking 5th, 6th grade, I would do this because I needed some sort of social interaction that I wasn't getting at home, right? My dad got kind of frustrated with both of us, so he would distance himself, which wasn't good for me and him, and it would leave me and her in a room together, which was insanely toxic.
And that kind of goes to a oil and water type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think of more of it as like an immovable object, or what is it, a unstoppable object running into an immovable object, and just a ton of collateral damage.
Right,
all
right.
over the house.
That kind of reminds me of when I was growing up. Uh, when my biological father and biological mother got divorced. And I was, 6, 7 years old. And my biological mother actually got custody of me and my sister. Well, my biological mother didn't want anything to do with me. The only reason why she wanted me was to basically throw shade at my father.
Right.
And during the weekend, my biological mother would go be with her twin sister over a couple of towns over and leave me at the house by myself, being 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, Well, I fell into with a group of kids that all they wanted to do was dip Copenhagen, smoke some Reds, and yeah, we even threw back some beer that we could find out of somebody's dad's refrigerator.
Oh yeah, back in the
Yeah.
day, man, it was what was that? Mickey's and Boone's Farm and Mad Dog 2020.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Oh man, I remember the first time I got sick on MD 2020. It was some blueberry.
Yeah.
I think I was like 9 years old, man. And
Anything you could get at the corner store, bro.
right? And but it's funny, how our parents kind of play a strong role in our early years
Yeah.
on where it kind of leads us.
Yeah.
And but we all make choices, and that kind of goes to: do you think anger played a role in why you started using substances?
Not so much the anger side of me as the distancing between me and my pops, right? And what I mean by that is, again, I would stay gone because I wouldn't. I mean, who wants to go home and have this intense fight? You know what I mean, all day long, or just be very unpleasant. So I would stay gone, right? And you find people, other kids in the neighborhood who kind of fit that description. So we all kind of fell in together. I think the first time I ever smoked a joint, I was in 5th grade. Right, we went down to the creek and smoked a J and goofed up, jumped in the water, and whatever, But I fell into a group that smoked pot, so I grew up a pothead. Right, it was just kind of the nature of it. Now, do I think like marijuana is a gateway drug? No, I don't think it at all. I think that we do what our social circles do, right? If I go to the bar a lot, I'm going to drink a lot. If I hang out with potheads, I'm going to smoke a lot of pot, right? But it just progresses as you get older. As we get older, we start trying
new things.
Yeah, the high. We want a different high. We want a different kind of high. And
I'm proud you brought up that social circle thing. Get tongue tied here. Kind of like Tweety Bird.
Yeah, I don't want to get tongue tied.
But you say social circles, and I agree with that because you're talking about going down to the creek and smoking a J. My social circles was more along the lines of Copenhagen, and smoking cigs. They never, we never even thought about smoking a J or doing anything else, and we just wanted to get away with the tobacco side of it. But there was another group in the same school.
Yeah,
that was their realm,
right?
And we didn't, my group didn't want to hang out with them, and vice versa. But the older I got, and even going into the military and everything, it was the same thing in the military. You got your same groups, and we've talked about this before on one of your other shows. That you got when we got out of the service, you got your people that do their thing.
Yeah,
we got the veterans that do our thing, and never once shall they meet.
Yep.
And I like the way you keep a consistent approach to your program, man. It is awesome,
bro. It's real.
Yeah,
it's just real.
We're looking back now. Okay, do you think your anger was more about external events or internal pain?
Internal pain. Definitely internal pain. I mean, I'm not gonna say there's not some external events that didn't just royally piss me off, but how I internalized those external events, right? Not having a proper way to mediate those things in my mind, not having the proper outlets to vent through, right? Created a very bad space in my head.
And in we also, you've always been very open about your accident as well when the crane crushed you. With the internal pain that you just described, and then you obviously had this external event that happened. How much does that magnify the use of self medication?
Oh my God, bro. That accident changed my life. And I remember when they pulled me out from underneath the rubble, I had 3,500 pounds of steel laying on top of me. And when they pulled me out, I looked down one time, right? Guy grabbed me over my chest and he pulled me out from underneath it. And I looked down and my leg looked like a plate of jello. Like when you shake a plate of jello, that's what it looked like, just going across the concrete. My foot was turned all the way around, almost ripped off. It was horrifying, right? And I remember looking up in the clouds and I told the guy holding me, I was like, man, my life's about to change forever and it's not going to be a good thing. Yeah, and I went through some things after that, having to deal with, at 30 years old, not being able to walk. It took me about 2.5 years to learn how to walk again. But during that time, it was like a domino effect. So as I was in some physical pain, right, I was able to pretty much medicate my physical pain with weed, right? So they gave me tramadol as my prescription, which is, you might as well just give me a Tylenol, So what I would do is,
no, we can't talk about Tylenol, bro.
Don't do Tylenol.
Don't do Tylenol.
Don't do it. No. So I would take a couple tramadol, and I would smoke me a bowl of weed or something like that, and it would knock the edge off just fine. However, the mental torture that came with it, that internal pain you're talking about, was excruciating. Right. My son was about 3 years old at the time. And he liked to go outside and play outside with dad. And when I just remember one day he came in with this soccer ball and I was laying in bed and I couldn't walk, right? And he said, Daddy, come outside and play with me. And I couldn't, right? And that just tore me up inside. I got so raging mad in that moment. And so my mental anguish was almost unbearable from losing my legs.
Yeah.
And then this domino effect occurred, right? So I lost my legs. Very shortly after that, my grandmother died. Very shortly after that, my kids were taken away, and I was locked up in Dallas County Jail. And while I was locked up in Dallas County Jail, literally everything I owned, everything I had worked for in my life, got thrown in the trash.
So that kind of goes to how did with the injury, the anger, also leading up from your childhood and your early adult life, the anger had to affect your relationships, obviously, like you just explained.
Oh yeah,
right.
I destroyed them all,
and that led into risky behavior.
I wouldn't even call it risky, bro. I would call it, there were some things said about me, right, and that were completely untrue. Well, and I say completely untrue. Like, I was sitting in a wheelchair, bro, and Child Protective Services called me a menace to society and that I was unfit to take care of my kids. And at this point, like, I was a weekend warrior with the partying. I had some trouble when I was a younger kid, but I wasn't by no means mischievous or, career criminal at this point, right? And when I lost my kids, I had made up in my mind that I was going to be everything that woman said I was. And so I lived that. From that day forward, I walked in that state. Y'all going to call me that. Y'all going to tell me that's who I am. And so that's who I was going to be. And I was very pissed, very pissed.
So the outside society basically determined who you were going to be at that point.
In my mind, yeah. In my mind. Now, is that how everyone looked at me? Probably not. And even through my addiction, I had a lot of people look at me and go like, bro, why do you do this? Why do you do what you do? This ain't you. This isn't who I see you as. Why do you do these things? And I would simply just look at it like, bro, because I don't care anymore.
So did you ever feel ashamed about that?
Oh, yes and no. Yes and no. some of the things I did, yes, absolutely. Um, it was a learning experience, right? When I got out of Dallas County Jail, um, that first time, uh, like I said, I had nothing. I didn't have a leg to stand on. There wasn't like treatment facilities and recovery places going, hey, come here, right? I was on the street. I had a pair of sweatpants and a pair of shoes, and no direction. Uh, my family at the time, they were dealing with my grandmother's death, and so nobody was really able to help me during that time. And so I was out on the streets on my own. I had to learn how to survive.
Uh, So you spoke of recovery.
Mhm.
When did you actually see your anger start to change for the good?
It took a lot. It took some years, bro. It took some years. I rejected it for a long time. But when I always had this image in my head, right, as a heroin addict and what I was doing, that sooner or later somebody was going to kill me, right? I was doing some things out in the streets to where, like, I was welcoming that opportunity, and I would kind of challenge it sometimes. You know, I would walk into situations where, bro, like I knew I was being set up, and I'd tell my homeboy, I'm like, whoa, watch, I'm gonna do this shit anyway, you know, and we're just gonna see what happens. And I walk out of it, and I'm like, almost heartbroken. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because I was looking for that one person who was gonna punch my clock. And so that when that didn't happen, and I ended up getting really, really sick, to the point where I couldn't take care of myself, uh, because my body had just deteriorated so much that when people started reaching out to help me, that started to shift my mindset. But even that was a gradual shift. It wasn't like an instant shift.
So your experience of anger changed once you stopped using any type of substance. Did you ever feel a difference in your anger? Like, were you able to control your anger a little bit more, or how did your anger change once the substance was out of your system?
So in addiction, I was angry at the world. I was royally angry at the world and everybody in it. Um, and I expressed that very openly. Uh, when I came into recovery, the anger shifted towards myself. Right, I had to look at myself and all the things that I did in that addiction and come to terms with it. So it shifted from being angry at the world to now I'm pissed off, angry at me. Right, which was kind of like the last step um, of when I was in addiction, bro. I didn't see an opportunity for me to ever be back in my kids' lives. When I came into recovery, I started talking to my older daughters again. And when their mom had gotten out of prison, it became too much for them to deal with. And so they asked me to back off. They were like, bro, just, we need you to step out of the picture. And so when that had to happen, right? And I understood it. I understood the pain I put them through. I understood all the things that I put them through. And so I respectfully did that for them. Um, Again, that anger shifted towards now I hate me. And that was kind of where I was at a year ago, was where I just had this deep self hate that some of the things I had done in my life, I wasn't going to be able to make amends. And that's when I really had to learn that not all amends are accepted, right? And even from loved ones that we hope to have back in our lives. Uh, but yeah, it shifted from hate from the world to hate to myself. And then I had to find a way to be grateful for all that in the past, right? So the bitterness wouldn't eat me up.
And you've been here at the Warrior Garden Studios now for a year, I believe, right about.
Man,
Uh,
almost to the money.
you know, so you brought up that year, and with this question, I'm going to ask you. You know, uh, learning to face your anger in all this that you've been talking about without self medicating. I can testify to what it's been like seeing the shift in you. How's it been though, being the one that's have to dealing with it on a daily basis?
So I moved my direction in life, right, to a life of gratitude. for my struggles because I'm able to take every bad thing in my life that's happened and use it for good, right? What I mean by that is I'm able to sit down with people and we're able to have those heart to heart conversations in a safe place, right? A judgment free zone, um, where I can help people work through those problems. So the fact that I'm able to do that, I can find gratitude in all that anger, all that hate, 25 years of addiction. Um, it's given me purpose to my pain, right? It's given me direction in life. And so today I'm a very humble person, right? Things I don't do is things I just absolutely refuse to do, dabble in, right? Is some of the things that I know feed that ego. Uh, you know, one of those things is like, I don't touch guns no more. I don't. And that's a personal thing for me, right? It's an ego trip for me. In my active addiction, I walked around with a gun on my hip for 10 years, right? And try me if you want. See how it works out. You know, I have to avoid that mentality, right? That combative mentality, that mentality that says, I'm just going to challenge everything and we'll just throw it out there and see what happens. So I don't cast judgment on people. That's another thing I don't do. I'm not the most obedient Bible reader, right? But I do read the warning signs, and I don't play with those warning signs, right? Judge not as you be judged first. That's a very clear warning to not do it,
Right.
right? And people always find an excuse to do it. But it also tells me here I can do it in discernment, and I can do it in these ways. I just look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna look at these red flags and I'm just gonna walk away from them. So, and that's something. It's a learned skill. You know what I'm saying? You have to make it a habit to watch for those things. So I actively look for things like that when I'm stepping into that realm of when I got to shut things down for me, so that way I don't cross those lines.
So it sounds like you're kind of talking about tools and coping strategies.
Absolutely.
Did you learn those during therapy, meetings, or support groups that's helped you find those root causes for the things that you've been talking about?
Life experience, bro. I have some really good mentors that I was able to open up to in private, right? So we get to have those private conversations sometimes. There are some things that I've done in my life that no one will ever know. I will never tell nobody. That's dies with me to the grave.
Roger that.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I do.
And that's just the truth of it. You know what I mean? But I have been able to do a lot of trial and error, and I think really that's what recovery is a lot of trial and error, right? I'm gonna try maybe taking these coping mechanisms, see how they do, and if they don't work, try something different, right? I have learned that man, dipping your foot in the water can sometimes you get burnt. So I just keep myself in a safe place, man. I don't dabble in things anymore. I don't open up doors to avenues of my own destruction.
Correct. And we've already talked about kind of making amends thing. I kind of want to hit on that. I've never heard anybody sit there and actually admit that they weren't able to make amends with somebody that they hurt. You see it in movies all the time, and kind of just chalk it up to Hollywood. But to actually hear about it in person with somebody talking about that has to almost be like one of those things, especially when it's a child. How close were you to actually going back to dabbling when your own flesh said no?
I didn't actually think. I mean, I did go back. I didn't dabble. I dove right back in. I had to really do some reflecting, right, and look at the trauma that I put my kids through. Look at everything surrounding the relationship between me and my kids. And when my daughter came at me and told me that, it hurt. It hurt deep, right? But I understood it. Like I got it. The relationship between me and her mom will never be healthy. We will never be able to sit in a room and get along for the sake of the kids. You know what I mean? It's it's not like that. It's the same way with their grandmother who they live with. So I had to look at it and say, is it better for me to back up and walk away so that way they can live a good life? Or do I step in and create all that toxicity all over again? And I made a choice to just not do that. And, you know, my kids live good lives. I get to peek in on them every now and then. Uh,
No.
but I do it respectfully and I keep my distance and I don't try to push myself on them, you know. And I think that if one day they want to have a relationship, you know, at some point we can do that. It just has to be in on their terms, right? I don't make it on my terms. I make it on their terms, and that it's a good, healthy, safe place for them. You know, that's what I care about more. I care more about them growing up, living happy, being happy, than me creating a whole bunch of more drama in their life.
And no parent wants that for their kid. I honestly believe that.
And it's tough, bro. Like it's a tough thing to look back on your life and see all the things that transpired, right? And live with yourself after that, right? So that's where my relapse came in last year. You know, I looked at my life and I was just like, dude, you know what I mean? And I hated myself. I isolated really bad, really bad. I started self-destructing, self-sabotaging. I neglected, you know, my wife, the world. I just I hated everything around me, including myself. You know, and yeah, bro, I tried to smoke myself into oblivion.
Yeah. So before we kind of close up here, um, what advice would you give someone in the early sobriety who feels overwhelmed by anger?
It's a step. I say it's a step by step process, right? It's a being able to look at things through a bigger than you scope, right? I have to look at a lot of things that have happened in my life and say, how has this affected other people? How has this affected my surroundings? Um, and ultimately, how has it affected me, right? And I have to veer away from those things. But getting away from anger, it's hard, bro. You have to start moving in a positive direction. My best way to get over anger, even when I'm angry today, right? If I get frustrated or angry with something, is to get out and do service work. I can almost always better my mood by going and helping somebody else do something.
Isn't it amazing how helping somebody else makes you feel better?
It almost instantly makes you feel better.
Yeah. I've always been one to actually like to help somebody more so than myself.
Yeah.
And it's craziness on how that happens. And
Yeah.
but Sean, I've enjoyed this, man.
Yeah,
I
bro.
wish Mike would let us have more power every once in a while.
Yeah. You just got to show up when he's not here.
I guess so. Yeah, we'll start opening the studio when he's not here.
Right.
Yeah, and then when we break something, we'll blame it on Jake.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
So-
absolutely.
Sean, you got anything else you want to add before we close out?
Man, I would say that if you're coming into recovery, man, expect to look at yourself through a very broad perspective, right? Be willing to be teachable. You know what I'm saying? Be willing to step outside your comfort zones and to look at your life, not so much emotionally, but objectively, right? Start looking through things and finding solutions and not dwelling in those problems because that's where we get those resentment feelings. That's where we get those anger feelings, is when we really let our emotions just eat us alive. So, you know, promote healthy practicing, you know, create new habits and really just, man, tear down the person you are and be willing to rebuild yourself as a new person. That was one thing I had to understand coming into recovery, is that I couldn't fix me. Like it wasn't like I just had like a loose bolt or you know, a leg fell off, right? I had to step into recovery and look at me as a whole and say, I am completely corrupted. I am completely flawed. And I had to really sit down and restructure my life and rebuild myself into a whole new person. And you know, when you're able to look at it in that manner, it's a learning it's a learning curve, right? It's going to take a long time. It's not something you develop in a week or 30 days or 90 days or even a year. You know what I'm saying? It is a long process of healing and understanding. And so just come with an open mind to those things and really be willing to sit down, come in at the weakest point you are in your life, right? I always tell people, man, when you come into recovery, you are at your weakest state. That's the weakest you will ever be. But then once you work the program and move through the program and become that person that you thought you couldn't be, right? You realize how strong you really are. And today, I'm grateful for the people who stepped out and pulled me into recovery. I'm grateful for all the people who've been in my recovery. And I'm very grateful for all the people that I've been able to be a part of their recovery. And in saying that, man, I think I'm about to wrap it up.
Where can we find you?
Man, you can find me at betterdaysrain.com. We are also on just about every major platform there is. We are on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Spreaker, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us at Better Days Rain at any of those, plus more. Be looking for the book Unconditional, coming out soon. You can also visit our Printify store to help us in our mission to expand our reach through our community, through this podcast. Big shout out to Warrior Garden Studios. Thanks for letting us shoot our show here. And with that.
And we also just found out you're going to have some Christmas bling coming out too, right?
Yeah, they're saying we got some Christmas bling coming out. So be looking out for the Christmas bling.
I can't wait for that, bro. So, hey, appreciate you letting me fill in for Mike. And, hey, deuce, man.
Peace.